Good evening, everyone. As was said, my name is Rahul, and I'm the founder and CEO of Superhuman, where we're building the fastest email experience in the world. So most of our customers end up getting through their inbox about twice as fast compared to before, and many of them see inbox zero for the first time in years. So what this is a story of how we built a product market fit engine. Now, as I'm sure everybody here knows, product market fit is the number one reason why products and startups succeed, but the lack of product market fit is the number one reason why they fail. In order to sort of delve into this topic and to start to understand it, we need to answer this question. What really is product market fit? Well, Paul Graham, the founder of YC, would say it's when you made something that people want. Sam Altman has a slightly different take. He says it's when users love your product so much that they spontaneously tell other people to use your product. But it is perhaps Mark Andreessen who has the most vivid definition of them all. He says, you can almost always feel it when product market fit is not happening. Customers aren't quite getting value. Users aren't quite growing that fast. Word of mouth is not quite spreading. Press reviews are kind of blah. And the sales cycle is taking too damn long. But you can almost always feel it when product market fit is happening. Customers are buying as fast as you can sell. You're hiring sales and support as fast as you can. Reporters are constantly calling about your hot new thing. Investors are staking out your house. And money is piling up in your checking accounts. It sounds pretty awesome. And that was the definition that I was staring at through tears in the summer of 2017. Through tears because it seemed so subjective, so unactionable. What do you do if by his definition you don't have product market fit? Indeed, I began to wonder, can you measure product market fit? Because if you could, maybe you could systematically, perhaps even numerically, increase product market fit. And as it turns out, the answer is yes. You can measure product market fit and you can optimize it. But before I share precisely how, let's wind the clock back by about 9 years. So in 2010, I started a company called Reportive. We were the first Gmail plugin to scale to millions of users. When people email you, you could see what they look like, where they worked, their recent tweets, links to their social profiles. We scaled rapidly, and in less than 2 years, we were acquired by LinkedIn. And then I stayed at LinkedIn for another 2 years, and during those 4 years, I developed a very intimate perspective of email. I could see Gmail get worse every single year, becoming more cluttered, using more memory, consuming more CPU, slowing your laptop down, and still, for some reason, not working properly offline. And then on top of that, people were installing plugins like our own, Reportive, but also Boomerang, Mixmax, Clearbit, Yesware, you name it, they had it. And each of these plugins took those problems I just mentioned, the problems of clutter and of speed and of CPU and of offline, and made each of those problems dramatically worse. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for Gmail to end up this way, although it turned out to be the perfect seeding ground for Superhuman. So we decided it was time for change, and that we would build an email experience that was blazingly fast, where searches would be instantaneous, where every interaction would take place in 100 milliseconds or less, an email experience where you never had to touch the mouse, where you could do everything from the keyboard and you would fly through your inbox. An email experience that just worked offline, so you could be productive from anywhere. And an email experience that had all of the best Gmail plugins built in natively, and yet was still somehow visually gorgeous, subtle, and minimal. And so, in the summer of 2015, we set up our office. This was our fancy sign, and we started to write code. And in the summer of 2016, we were still coding. And in the summer of 2017, a little bit bigger now, we were still coding. And I felt this incredible, intense pressure to launch. both from within myself and also from my team. After all, Reportive had launched, scaled, and been acquired in less than 2 years, and here we were 2 years in and we had still not launched. But no matter how much I felt that pressure, deep down inside, I knew that a launch would go very badly. It would not be the Marc Andreessen story. We did not have product market fit. But I couldn't just tell my team that. These are hyper-ambitious, super intelligent engineers. They poured their hearts and their souls into building this product. I needed a plan. And so I started my search for the Holy Grail, for a way to define product market fit, for a metric to measure product market fit, and for a methodology to systematically increase product market fit. So I read everything I could, I searched high and low, I spoke to all the experts that I could find. And then I found this guy, Sean Ellis. So I assume that pretty much everybody here knows the term growth hacker, I would imagine. Everyone's nodding. This guy coined that term. And speaking of Dropbox, did you guys overlap? You must have. He was involved in early growth at Dropbox, LogMeIn, Eventbrite. And as vivid and as compelling as Marc Andreessen's definition of product market fit is, and it certainly is a very vivid and compelling definition, it's a lagging indicator. What Sean found is a leading indicator, one that is benchmarked, and one that is predictive. You simply ask your users, how would you feel if you could no longer use the product? And then you measure the percentage that say, very disappointed. And Sean benchmarked this on hundreds of venture-backed internet startups and found that those companies that struggled to grow the most almost always had less than 40% very disappointed. Whereas the companies that grew the most easily and the fastest almost always had more than 40% of their users who would be very disappointed without the product. So if you have 40% or more of your users who'd be very disappointed without your product, you have initial product market fit. Now here is that same question posed to 731 Slack users. 51% of those said they would be very disappointed without Slack. 51 is greater than 40, therefore Slack has product market fit. And you'll probably say, well, you didn't need a survey to tell me that. But this example shows just how hard it is to beat that 40% benchmark. The metric is more objective than a feeling. It predicts success better than Net Promoter Score. And not only is the metric the best way to measure product market fit, it lets you build your very own product market fit engine. And with this engine, you have a methodology for increasing product market fit. And this methodology can even generate your roadmap for you. So let's dive right in. Let's take a look at step one. Step one is to survey. Email these 4 questions to every single user. How would you feel if you could no longer use the product? You give them 3 responses: very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, and not disappointed. What type of people do you think would most benefit from the product? What is the main benefit you get, and how can we improve the product for you? Now, don't just email these questions immediately. You should only send these questions to people who've experienced the core benefit of your product. At Superhuman, we wait for about 3 weeks until you've experienced how fast it is, how much time you saved, and you've had a chance to truly fall in love with the product. Now, you'll send these emails out, you'll get your results back in. First thing to do is analyze the results to question number 1. How would you feel if you could no longer use the product? And you'll probably end up with results that look something like this. These are the actual Superhuman results from the summer of 2017. Only 22% of our users would be very disappointed at that time without the product. We very clearly did not have product market fit. Now, this may seem sad, but now I at least had a way to explain our situation to the team, and more importantly, I had a plan to increase this number. Which brings us to step 2 of the survey, which is to segment. So here we want to understand who are the people who really love the product, and why do they love it? And for this, I like to use the concept of the highest expectation customer, which is a concept that I found from Julie Supan, who led early marketing at Airbnb, Dropbox, and many other great companies. So the highest expectation customer is the most discerning person in your target demographic. They enjoy the product for its greatest benefit, and most importantly, other people want to be like them because they think they're clever, or they're judicious, or they're insightful. So this makes a lot more sense when you see some examples. Let's actually take a look at two. So here is Dropbox. The Dropbox highest expectation customer wants to simplify their life. They're very trusting, they're very organized typically, they're certainly tech savvy, and at the end of the day, they just want to know that this third party has their back when it comes to their life's work. I'm a Dropbox HXC myself. I'm sure many of us are here as well. Let's have a look at a different example, Airbnb. So the Airbnb HXC doesn't just want to travel. They want to travel like they belong. They want to experience Paris, for example, as if they really live there. Airbnb rose to early success by catering to the initial tastemakers and influencers who match this definition. It's by finding these core initial audiences that we can jumpstart the growth of our companies. So how do you calculate, how do you come up with the definition of your own HXC? Well, what you want to do is you want to go back to those users who really love the product. Take all your users who said they'd be very disappointed without your product and analyze their answers to question number 2. Question number 2, as a reminder, is who do you think this is best for? And here's the cool part. Happy users almost always answer that question by describing themselves in the words that matter most to them. So you can use those words to generate your marketing copy and to also create a rich and detailed description of your HXC. Let's take a look at the Superhuman one. This is Nicole. She is the Superhuman highest expectation customer, and she is a hardworking professional. She might be an executive, a founder, an investor, or manager, and that list has grown since then. She definitely works very hard. She's often working into the weekend, and she feels she's productive already, actually, but she's self-aware enough to realize that she could do better. The problem is she doesn't have time to figure out how to be better. Now, she'll clearly spend much of her day in her email. On a typical day, she'll read hundreds of emails. She might send 40, 50, or on a very busy day, perhaps 80 emails. And most importantly, it is literally part of her job to be responsive. Because if she's not, she'll block her team, or she'll damage her reputation, or she'll miss opportunities. Now she'll aim to get to inbox 0, but she'll only really get there a handful of times a week, if that, and very occasionally, maybe once a year, she'll have to just wipe the slate clean and start again. Generally speaking, she has a growth mindset, but rather interestingly and perhaps frustratingly for us, she has a fixed mindset about email. She's open to the idea of new clients, but she is relatively skeptical that a new piece of software can make her faster. And you want to generate a highest expectation customer definition as rich and detailed as that, if not more so. So once you have that, let's head back to the survey. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each survey response. As you can see here, 22% very disappointed. And I've colored the other 2 categories as well and assign a persona to each one. And here's the magical part. We're going to take the users who most love the product, those who said they'd be very disappointed without it, in this case, founder, manager, executive, and BD, and we're going to use them to narrow the market. That means we're going to deliberately ignore sales, success, data science, and engineering. And boom, you end up with something like this. So just by narrowing the market, our product's market fit score jumps by 10% from 22% to 32%. We're not quite at 40% yet, but that's not bad for 2 minutes of effort. And it paves the way for the rest of the product's market fit engine. So on to step 3. Step 3 is analyze. Now at this point we want to understand 2 very critical things. Number 1, why do people love our product? And number 2, what holds people back from loving our product? And so again, we key off the answer to question number one. Remember, question number one is how would you feel if you can no longer use the product? Take the users who say they'd be very disappointed without the product, look at only their survey responses, go to question three. Question three is, what is the main benefit of the product to you? And just start scanning down those answers, and you want to be looking for the patterns. Let's have a look at some answers for Superhuman. Back from that time frame, these are real answers. Processing email is much faster. I get through my inbox in half the time. The app is crazy fast. The UX and the shortcuts make me feel like an actual superhuman. Faster responsiveness navigation, so much faster than Gmail, more efficient with my time, work through email more quickly, speed, aesthetics, keyboard, great set of keyboard shortcuts. You start to get a sense of why people love your product, and the fastest way to grok this and to communicate this to the rest of your team, I find, is just to throw it into a word cloud. And then it becomes as clear as day. People love Superhuman for its speed, for its focus, and for its keyboard shortcuts. And now, more magic. Go back to these survey results. Remember, we got from 22% to 32% very disappointed just by rebasing the market. We need to continue growing this pie. So how do we grow this pie? Well, we can convert folks from either not disappointed or somewhat disappointed into that segment. Now, first of all, and as difficult as this may be, we just have to ignore the not disappointed crowd. They are so far from loving our products that they're essentially a lost cause. And this may be a very difficult thing to do because they're often the most vocal of the people sending you feedback. And it's very tempting to act on the people who are sending the loudest feedback. But that's not the best way to build a product. These folks, we're going to just ignore. Now, what about these? Can we convert some of them into being very disappointed without our product? Absolutely, yes, we can. But which of them? How do we know who to listen to? Some of them we can make happy, some of them we can't. But how do we figure out which is which? Here's what we do. We take the core benefit that resonated most with the very disappointed crowd, and for us, that is speed, and we use that to segment the somewhat disappointed users. So again, these were the real numbers from 2017. We had 15% of that, 15% of the overall pie was somewhat disappointed users for whom the main benefit was not speed. They would have said things like offline, or organization, or triage, or something like that, but it fundamentally wasn't speed. It wasn't the reason why people love us. But there was this bunch of folks over here, a whole 30% of the pie, that agreed with the main benefit of the product. Now again, these folks, you just have to ignore them. And they'll be loud, and they might ask for all kinds of things, and those things may even make sense. You'll be like, we planned on building this stuff anyway, maybe we should just build this now. But even if you build those things, what this analysis is showing you is that they still won't love your product because the main benefit of what you're creating does not resonate with them. So ignore it. Do not key off it. These folks, on the other hand, are so close to loving your product. They're like, yeah, speed, it's great, I'm kind of there, but I'm missing just these one or two or three things. These are the folks for whom we build, because it's probably something small that's holding them back. So how do we figure out what that is? Well, we take all of their surveys and we analyze the results, the answers to question number 4. Question number 4 is, how can we improve Superhuman for you? As a reminder, this is quite the segmentation. What we did is we started with a bunch of surveys. We looked for the persona that is most resonating. We used that to segment down the surveys further. We then analyzed question number 2, what is the main benefit, to figure out what the main benefit actually is for the people who love our product. We then used the main benefit to segment the somewhat disappointed crowd. And now we're going to jump one level in, it's the last level I promised, into these set of people and analyze what we can do to improve the product for them. And you can run through the exercise, throw it into a word cloud, and you end up with something like this. This is the actual word cloud from summer 2017 for Superhuman. So the main thing holding our users back was simple. At the time, it was the lack of a mobile app, which we have, of course, since addressed. But then it got less obvious and more interesting. Things like integrations, or attachment handling, or calendaring, or unified inbox, or better search, and so on into the long tail of things, the small things that were holding people back. So to increase the product market fit score, all you have to do is build these things that would convert those users into being very disappointed. And that brings us to step 4 of the engine, which is implement. So we now understand why the very disappointed crowd loves the product. And we also understand what holds back the somewhat disappointed crowd. This is where the engine can automatically generate your roadmap. And so we do this on a quarterly basis. I can tell you, having worked in product for a long time, this cuts a lot of the bullshit away. You just literally start with an automatically generated plan. What I would recommend is you have 50% of your effort doubling down on the reasons why people love your product, and 50% systematically addressing the things that hold the somewhat disappointed users for whom speed, or the main benefit in your case, whatever is holding them back. That sentence made no sense, but I think you understand. This is what it looks like. Now you might be wondering, why not do all of this, or why not just do all of that? And this gets a little bit subtle. Let's run the thought experiment. If you spent all of your time just doubling down on what the very disappointed users love, it's great. You're continuing to double down on a strength, and you might think that's considered best practice. But you will not be expanding the segment of that pie. And it's critical to expand the segment of that pie. So I see many founders do this. I actually also see do only this. I also see equally as many founders do only this. Well, we have all of this feedback coming in, and like people, really, we want them to love the product. Why don't we just keep on doing that? But if you only do this, then your competitors will overtake you, and someone will end up doing your main benefit better than you do. So every single quarter, we start with half the resource going there, half the resource going here. And then we have the debate. Well, is this a quarter where we want to spend 80% of our effort doing this because we've fallen behind? Or maybe we haven't invested enough in speed recently, or perhaps our design needs a visual refresh. Maybe we should shunt more effort that way. But we start each quarter at 50-50. So this becomes the new roadmap, and it brings us on to the 5th and final stage of the product market fit engine, which is tracking. So the framework will work. There are no silver bullets, and as you double down on what users love, and as you systematically address the other column, you need to constantly survey new users. And we have hundreds of these surveys going out every single week, and we track these numbers over time. Now we aggregate the score on a weekly, on a monthly, and on a quarterly basis. Let's actually take a look at the numbers from back then. So in the summer of 2017, our product market fit score was 33%. This was just post-segmentation. After a quarter, it was 47%. Another quarter, it was 56%. And the quarter after that, and it was 58%. We'd converted basically almost all of that available segment into the very disappointed segment. This is like the theoretical maximum given the demographic we have and the product we have for how much love that we can get. And it's been systematically created. So this is living proof. The product market fit engine really does work. I believe it is the best definition of product market fit that I've found. It is the best metric to measure product market fit. And it's the best methodology to systematically increase product market fit. And when I'm not actively running Superhuman, which is like 99.9% of my day, I am helping folks work through this with their own companies. And so if you have a product that you're trying to get product market fit for, and you run this survey and you need a second pair of eyes, let me know. Because I'm really fascinated how we can apply this to more products, to more companies, to more domains. These are my contact details. You want to tweet me, you want to email me. Ruchi gave me permission to say this, so I will. So things are going really great at Superhuman. Plenty of news I cannot talk about yet, but I'm actively hiring very, very aggressively. So we're about 30 people right now. We'll be 60 people by the end of the year. I'm hiring for basically every single role you can imagine. And so if you're interested in joining another rocket ship, then let me know. And if not, I'm super interested in helping you out with some of this stuff. So that's it from me.